Okay, man, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. I'll wait here for just a second. I'll wait for everybody to get in. By the way, if you haven't tried, I'm not like even that much of a Coke fan. If you haven't tried the Holiday Creamy Vanilla Coke, it's good. What's up, guys? Sorry for the day late. Normally I do these on the day that they're released. But just it was a busy day yesterday. Wasn't able to do it then, but we are here nonetheless, we are here. And we're going to get started. I won't have the little text alerts down at the bottom, so apologize for that, but will I not? Actually, let me not be lazy. Let's see. Let's not be lazy. So yeah, I'll be in Florida this coming week. Truthfully, I have no idea when I'll be like available, but if you do happen to see me, I usually like during lunch break is when I walk the venue and whatnot. So it's usually when people can see me, but if you guys ever want to come say hi or you see me walking around and whatnot at the venue, you're welcome to say hi and tell me how things are going. If you guys are watching this now, please hit the like button. Also, just if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, please hit the like button. It helps the YouTube channel a lot. Obviously, I just do these at this point, but yeah, it does help it out a lot. Also, let me know in the comments below. I'm so curious to know which team you're playing for, if you're playing in this event, and what division you're playing in. So let me know down in the comments below, but let's get started. So, as usual, we're going to take a look at off the break shots. I know that normally I have the Paintballers app here, so I can actually, I don't know why I don't. Let me just get that booted up while we do this really quick. I do like to have both of them at the same time running, so I mean, quite a huge gap off the back line and crossfield towards the Dorito side of the field, heading towards the snake. So this, I imagine the number twos will be shooting at a lot. So definitely get some practice in on this. The home definitely has some shots towards this. These are, I always say these are really small gaps to be shooting off the break, but obviously as the tournament goes on, they're definitely worse and worse. As in people hit them more frequently, so be careful about that. Honestly, a lot of the rest of this is super obstructed, except for this step out shot right here. So there's a huge channel where somebody could step off the box, take a shot here. You could even step maybe a little bit further and take a shot towards your opponent that's matching you in the can. Though I'm not sure, that's going to be pretty tough to get those shots there. It almost feels like you'd be better to take them off the box. But again, I really don't see anybody doing that from the back center. We'll get more into that when we look at the Dorito side here in a second. Second tournament playing 3-man. That's awesome. Good luck. As we continue out, again, that gap becomes a bigger problem. But yeah, no, you'd still have to worry about it right here. You still have to worry about it if you're running to the corner. Let's see what that looks like from this perspective. That's this shot right here. So can you shoot that safely without being exposed? It's hard to say. There is a shot there. I don't know how common people will be taking that, but and as we continue to come out, it almost seems like as soon as you pass this Aztec, you're pretty safe getting into the corner. Pretty much anything else on the Dorito side is extremely obstructed, so no concerns there. And then, yeah, pretty strong corner. We'll get into that once we talk about the snake side. Let's go over towards the Dorito side here as we push out. Again, this is that same crossfield shot we looked at on the snake side's perspective, now from the Dorito angle. Very strong crossfield shot. I imagine this is going to be happening all tournament long. It's hard to say if anybody has an advantage. I would say no. They're equidistant from the back center. So honestly, the better team is going to be able to take this shot. So definitely work on this. If you cannot hit this shot as you run out, this is a huge disadvantage to you because the number twos are probably going to be doing this most of the tournament. The nice thing too is that if you're able to shoot inside and not die or kill your opponent, you actually have a ton of visibility into any moves that come up to the center of the field as well. So if for whatever reason people are pushing up to the middle, either to the can that's right here on the snake side, or yeah, filtering up into the Dorito side, or excuse me, the snake side 50 brick, you have a lot of really great visibility. The opposite, I imagine, is true. Yep, the opposite is true if you dominate the inside on the snake side of the field. So you can see people running to this turret. You can also see people running into this brick. I guess if they take the inside route, which is pretty risky. I'm not sure how common that'll be. Certainly if they go to the turret and then on the outside, you wouldn't see it. But again, if you're able to stay on this inside crossfield shot for a second, you can cover the middle. It's really just the biggest thing to call out here. Let's continue along the back line. So pretty big gaps here as well. This is a similar sort of situation where you have a lot of inside gaps if you either take a knee or delay. I would say you have a little bit bigger of a gap. But again, I really don't know how common it's going to be for people to shoot this shot. It's possible that you get into this kind of meta game where, depending on where you decide to stop, you might expose yourself to that. But I imagine that people are just going to stop here, where essentially you block the inside of this juice box that's in the back of the field. You are blocked from the, the back center. You are extremely exposed to this crossfield shot. So I'm just pointing out that you can do this, not that you will survive if you do. But there is definitely some shots here that you could take shooting towards the Dorito side as people try to run out. And it looks to be a similar sort of situation where as soon as you cross this gap, you're probably pretty safe. So definitely those crossfield shots are going to protect essentially these crossfield shots that we're looking at right now that people could take. Where is that angle? Right here? No, excuse me. These are the heads up. These crossfield shots, or these inside shots, are protected if these people run out and shoot crossfield. So they're protected. It's a bit of a, I don't know, cat and mouse sort of game. You have to decide, yeah, who's going to do, if you're comfortable doing that. Let me just pull something up on my phone here real quick. Let's get paintballers up here too. I actually prefer to look at this information. Is private LAN. Who cares about the rest of this? See if they have it. 2025 World Cup. Beautiful. Sorry for, I should have had this up earlier, but it's easy enough to get up and running. Okay, so we already looked at all this stuff. Don't need to repeat it too much. Lots of crossfield shots as you run out. Again, what I was trying to illustrate before is that you have this inside shot. Wait, why is that a... Oh, weird. This is their stand-up brick. That's really weird. It's extremely big in this, which looks a little odd. So in this, you can shoot over this pin, which you can do, to be fair. You can do this in a tournament. You can shoot over the pin and still hit each other. But this does allow that if you kneel down, you should be able to avoid that paint to an extent. So you still can cover the inside while essentially avoiding each other if you get low enough. Just be careful. Like, nothing is guaranteed in paintball, obviously. But this is a way to dominate your opponent without seeing them. And again, you can still hold the inside routes if you want, if you just take a knee. So keep that in mind. Eric Sanchez, what's up, buddy? I think that's probably good for now for the back line. So let's take a look now at... Let's take a look at the snake. Help people at home know what we're looking at. So let's take a look at the snake side. So we already know these crossfield shots. Heads up shots are pretty strong from your to your mirror. You have some okay-ish shots. Well, pretty decent shots, I would say, on the outside of that corner as well. Again, these look so weird. They almost look like wedges to me from this perspective. But anyway, you have, I guess, okay-ish inside shots if they're running tall. Otherwise, you're not going to really be able to do much there. But definitely on the outside, you have a lot of coverage. You have some wrap potential towards the back center, which means they can shoot at you as well. So just be very careful. you know, you could probably go low enough to avoid the back center shots, but you definitely can take some blind shots over the brick to put the back center in, depending on which side they're looking. As we continue out further, so your mirror is definitely going to be a problem. This is one of those where it's always hard to know as the number 2 how long you should stay on the inside of the field. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but that's a big challenge, because if you're not looking heads up, you give up the control that you would otherwise have if you stayed heads up the whole time. And so just be aware that that's something to be cautious of. As we go out to the Aztec, let me just move this chat over here. Sorry, one sec, guys. Want to be able to see it better. It's not super visible. As we go out to this Aztec here, we still have that. We have this gap here. I'm not sure how common it's going to be for people to shoot this, though. So what I'm looking at really is, like, if you come to this corner, or if you come to this can, and you shoot at your mirror and you get a kill off the break, you could absolutely come up here and then walk off this zone, and they would be in a lot of trouble, for sure. Obviously, depending on where the Snake 1 player is, it's hard to do both. So, you know, in a perfect situation, your back center, or rather somebody on the Dorito side, shoots the runner going into the Snake. The number 2, who was shooting crossfield, comes up to here after he hears Tiger 1, or after he sees Tiger 1 on the Dorito side, and also happens to hear Tiger 2 on the Snake side. Again, probably not going to happen, but this is an option, right? Pushing up if you know the guy that was shooting at you crossfield is dead. This is a great option, so keep that in mind. Glad to see you doing a layout review. Hope you're doing well. Will you be at Cup? Yes, I will be at Cup. I will be at Cup this year. Do you think home is going to just be a short stop, because it doesn't seem very like good visibly? Yeah, we'll take a look at it in just a second. When we look at the back center stuff, it didn't, at a glance, it did not look very good. I'll be honest with you. Looking at your mirror, your Aztec is somebody you can't ignore to get into the Snake if they're matched. So that's unfortunate. Is there anybody else you have to worry about? Well, yeah, I mean, you would have to worry about the 50, and I guess, you know, the wedge is, they're either going to be at the Aztec or the wedge. They're not going to be at both, probably, but you can't ignore the middle as well. So hopefully you can keep them out of the middle, but as you can see, like, there's also a really easy route after the breakout, like, assuming the you know, you don't stand too tall and the back center shoots you in the head, assuming nobody's at this can, like we just pointed out, which I think the can is going to be, I think the can is like an if A then B sort of play. Which, what I mean by that is, like, I really don't think people are going to run to this can off the break, because this crossfield shot is so strong. It's so easy to get shot going up to that Hertz bunker, that I would be so surprised if people did that off the break. And I feel like the only way that would happen is if the guy who was running out to this Dorito side brick is under so much pressure or dying pretty consistently that they have to just dive into their bunker. Wow, that was not even close. But if they have to start diving into their bunker, I could see a situation in which you could take this Hertz can off the break. Because then otherwise, you don't really have much of a threat. If the guy that's going right here has to dive, you don't have much of a threat to get up to this Hertz bunker. So the only reason I point that out is because if you slide into this Aztec off the break and you put in your mirror quick enough, you're probably safe to just take this bite into the Snake. Again, these are all probabilities, but that just means that you're hoping to get into the Snake faster than you think somebody's going to be up the middle. It's paintball, anything can happen, but these are just probabilities, right? So let's see. Also glad to hear you'll be at Cup. I'll try to say what's up. Yeah, that'd be great. Like I said, my most available time is during lunch. Lunch break is when I usually walk the venues and stuff. All right. Corner to corner is obviously visible. It's not a true wire. You can't see the outside of the wedge. There's a lot going on in the Snake so far. Have great visibility on the Aztec as well as the can behind it. So this is a pretty strong bunker, I would say. You have to be very careful about getting low, though. This is one of those situations where, like, so many shots can come in on your head if you just assume you're safe because people can't see you. There is a lot of opportunity to shoot somebody who's going low right here. So be very careful about that. If you're going to get low, get, like, extremely low and see what you know, take a look at what you're looking for. The can would stop you from progressing. We pointed it out earlier. But what I was looking for is to see if you got low enough, could you just immediately crawl into the Snake? Now, if the can is not already shooting at you, you can. you can just get right low and crawl right away. But if somebody comes to this can and immediately starts shooting on the outside like this, you cannot go low enough to avoid that. At least according to Paintballer's playtest, right? Or Paintballer MLPB's Paintballers, whatever this game is called on Steam. Just want to know for personal reasons, can the god shoot the home on a blind over the Hertz can? Maybe. You're a little close to the Hertz can, so you might be shooting a little too high, I would say. Like, you could certainly try it, but as far as what I can see, this looks extremely high. Right? Like, you're hitting up there, I would say. So, probably not. I guess, obviously, depending on how tall you are. I couldn't, personally. Alright, getting into here. So, let's take a look at the snake stuff. So, a wrap towards the Dorito side. Dorito side brick is definitely there. The can, as we pointed out, is going to be visible. Not the 50 brick, interestingly, but obviously the wedge if they were standing tall. And I would be worried about the Aztec dropping a shot in on your loader if you were doing this. It's hard to see. It's always obviously hard to tell in the virtual world the shots exactly, but I'd be very, very concerned about like hard wrapping this because the Aztec can definitely stand over the top and shoot you in the face with the loader. So the question is though, why would you stop here? Is there a reason you would stop here? You can see the Dorito. What is that? 3? What is this? One sec. What is this bunker? It's the Dorito 3, we would call it, probably. We would call this the... this corner, we would either call Delta or Baby. We'd call this Dorito 1, 2, and 3. So that looks to be the Dorito 3 that you can shoot. So yeah, you can hold a gap there. And that's not like not valuable. It's not as valuable as probably other spots, but you can do that if you want to be productive. And for there doesn't seem to be anything that's stopping you right now. Like if you get low enough. Oh, that's not true. This brick can shoot you is what I'm looking at right now. That brick looks to be able to stop you. Now, obviously, your mileage may vary at your local field or at the tournament, so definitely check it out. But as far as what I can see, that brick looks like it could drop shots in on you that would make you not be able to move. So, if you do get stuck here, you can, you know, there's other things you can look for. You can look on this inside shot and shoot towards the tower. You can shoot crossfield towards this Dorito 1, it looks like. So there's some value here. This isn't totally useless. There's definitely a lot of value here. If you are able to put the brick in quick enough, then you get up to the Snake 2. Snake 2, you have shots in the Aztec. Nothing's free, right? We're looking for is who's stopping us from moving and who are our free kills if there are any. And so far, there's nothing free, but you definitely apply quite a bit of pressure towards the Aztec on the Dorito side, as well as the Delta. Yeah, that baby Dorito. You prevent it from moving, so that's nice. If you hurt baby or Delta, whatever you want to call it, we'll just call it we'll call it baby for the sake of this. But if they're in baby, there's a lot of value here in holding that crossfield shot for a second, stopping them from moving. At least as far as the game's concerned, you can't see the brick here. There's obviously a bit of a shot towards that Hertz bunker, but this is where you're really getting kind of sneaky and surprising people if you're doing anything else on the inside. On the outside, this is where it gets a little tricky because you got to be worried about the corner. You do have to be worried about the corner here. So I'd be very careful about immediately taking this. This is almost one of those where if you were going to do this, I would almost lay it down completely and shoot to just protect yourself. The reason is because if you lay down here, you more isolate yourself from the corner shots. Like, let's say, for example, there was a dude looking heads up in the mini wedge, as well as a guy in the corner, in the snake corner, looking at you as well. This allows you to isolate the snake guy. Because if you come out right here, just on your knees, both of them can shoot at you. So, might be worth it to lay down first, isolate the snake, and also just get intel to know exactly where they are, and then go from there. So, Yo, Christopher Beasley, what's up, buddy? How are you? All right. And looking at the snake 3 now, huge gaps to hold along the back line. That's a massive gap. So if you get Tiger 1, like let's say for example you dive into the snake, you get up early, because again we've established that the only person that can really stop you is this brick off the break. So if the snake 1, a snake guy dives in here, immediately checks this off, isn't there, keeps crawling, gets all the way up to the snake 3 right away, and you hear Tiger 1 Dorito side, maybe even hear Lucy in this situation. If you're able to figure out who the Dorito guy is that died, this is extremely valuable to stop them from pushing up the snake. There's a lot of value here. This gives your team, if you hold that for long enough, it gives your team on the Dorito side long enough time to push up that side of the field. Then you can relinquish that job and then play heads up. So lots of value there. You also do apply maybe a little pressure towards the Dorito 1. So Dorito 1 shots are there. Dorito 2 shots for sure. This is an extremely good shot towards the Dorito 2. So this snake 3 is where you really start to get into the game, I would say. Yes, I will be there. I will be there. Yo, Heath, what's up, buddy? It's good to see everybody, man. It's been a long time. Lots of familiar faces. Miss you too, guys. So yes, I will be in Florida. As I said before, the best time to say hi to me is during lunch. So lunch break, I usually walk the venue and just see who I can see and what's up. I usually only get a chance to go towards the semi-pro field, so just because it's usually right next to the pro field. So if I'm ever watching paintball and it's not pro, if I'm not in the pro broadcast, it's almost always semi-pro that I'm watching. So is that back center? Yes, it is. You have some really good shots, a lot of pressure to apply towards the back center if you're in the snake 3 on a wrap, and then also towards that that tower on the Dorito side as well. So, or the brick, I keep calling it a tower, but the brick as well is really strong. Of course, this wedge right in front of you is also a problem. Nothing really to be said about that other than just be extremely careful. If you have any reason to suspect that somebody's there, the safest way to check is to use this little nipple here and stand up. Oh, that's the wrong button. Stand up and check. You don't even have to commit to shooting. You can just head check. Now, that's not always safe, by the way. If you do that consistently in Team Scout, you doing that, they will look for it. But if you have reasons to suspect that there's somebody there, this is probably the safer way to check, because you can isolate everything that's to the right of you, like down the snake. You can isolate that by using this little nipple. Where did my gun go? I never remember what button this is. Okay, whatever. And then when you go past this, I guess we could look at the inside snake stuff here in a second, but past this, lots of shots in towards that snake, or that Dorito 3. Excuse me, Dorito 2 and 3. Both are really strong. Same angle that you had on the wrap to the bunker prior, so I don't see there's like a ton of extra value getting here looking at those same shots. And then obviously a decent amount of inside shots over the top. On the wrap, you have the Aztec, so you can't just, like, this isn't one of those snakes where you can just kind of ignore everything that's on your side of the field because it's completely blinded. This is where you're really going to have to take a stop and deal with somebody stopping you. And I guess I should say, too, like, you can't really bump up to this next bunker past the 50 without dealing with either the home or the brick on the Dorito side. Sorry, my earpiece keeps coming out. Let's take a look at the inside of the snake then really quick. So we established that we have this wedge, extremely dominant over the snake 1 cake, extremely dominant. You probably have some control. I don't know how much, but you probably have a decent amount of control in that inside route on the mini wedge into the snake. It's difficult to tell in the app, but you probably have a decent amount of control. And then obviously, you know, this is a killer. Like, this is a trap that you would set for somebody if they were trying to take the outside route up to the well, I guess that's the only route they can take, but yes, take this route up past the snake 3. Inside shots, really strong shots towards that Dorito. Surprised, actually. That's a really strong shot. As you guys know, you've heard me say this many times, I hate this angle. This is one of the worst angles to challenge people from. But I think this is a really decent shot to take to help your teammate get up the snake. So, you know, a lot of times in layouts like these, the inside channel ends up being like the route that a lot of the number twos or like the support players go to help their teammates. So it's like usually you find your number ones are somewhere in the snake, your number twos are somewhere in this like inside channel. And so what ends up happening is like we've already established that this brick looking towards the snake way has like a lot of visibility into the snake stuff. And so if your snake player gets stuck for whatever reason, we talked about how he can't really freely go from this cake up to the snake 2, and you're back here, you can definitely find a route to get up the field and apply at least a little bit of pressure. I would say that if your teammate is stuck in the snake 1, shooting at him from this wedge into this inside shot would give him access up into the snake 2. Probably not much more beyond that, just because the angle changes enough that this guy could hide from the guy that's in the wedge enough that you wouldn't be able to take this for free. But at that point, you're challenging him directly anyway. So just stuff to keep in mind. So really decent shot here. It would be one that I would surprise somebody with. I don't know how much you can just hold this for free. So obviously shots towards the can as well. You know, hurts bunker again if they're there, but you are blinded from the back center. So if people take a pretty traditional backline 5, there's a lot you can do in this position. A lot of control from here. So this seems to be a pretty decent spot to get to. If we go up to this, oh, I don't want to go to the 50 brick because that's more of the center. But let's take a look at this inside route here. This is one where I would imagine we see a lot of people jumping over to get to this spot. So for example, if you're, I don't know if I can really do it. You can kind of vault in this game. It's always like not consistent. So I'm just going to run around. But this is one where, you know, if you're in the snake 3 and you're shooting inside and you don't see anything from the Doritos, you actually can just dive over this into that inside snake channel and then maybe dive again into the other spot. So in some instances, you might actually be able to avoid the tower, this guy, excuse me, the cake, not the cake, the brick. You might be able to avoid the Dorito brick guy to some extent, depending on how quickly you do this and if he reacts in time. Excuse me. So you have the same sort of Dorito shots that you did before, but you're a lot less protected. That's something to keep in mind. You are way less protected doing this than you were before. So I would say that if they're in the, you know, Dorito 2 even, I would be very careful about taking this. You can be here and still live. You just have to worry. You just have to be careful about doing too much where you move yourself away from the outside of the snake. Because the more you play this inside angle, the less control or less you know what's going on behind you, where somebody could be crawling into the snake and then just shooting you in the back. So I would use this almost as like a stopgap to either get into the snake, like to go from the snake to here to up to the wedge, or just looking for a sneaky play. But I would be very careful about, you know, doing this otherwise. So obviously this wedge, when you pass the 50, is extremely strong into the snake. Nothing really to be said about that. You have the same sort of angles you did before, but a little bit more dominant, maybe. So if they are stuck in the back line and your number 2 gets into this wedge and you have a number 1 in the actual snake itself, this is extremely strong positioning. So the reason I say that, you are susceptible to being ran down, just so we're aware, because what happens, I see this all the time, by the way. So what happens is if you get this kind of positioning, you have the number 1 here. Let's imagine you have a number 2 there, a number 1 in the snake itself. Oftentimes what ends up happening is this guy looks heads up, this dude looks inside, and now you have a huge blind spot. You have an extremely strong blind spot that if somebody comes and runs down this player, it becomes extremely disastrous. So just be aware. Be aware. But otherwise, pretty strong again. Insane amounts of pressure. If you get Tiger 2 out of the Dorito side, you've got a lot of snake side pressure. You can lock down so much just by doing this, you know, looking for stuff. So that's pretty much it for the snake. It looks to be pretty standard. Like the corner's a really good route. It doesn't look like, hold on, before I say anything. So, at least as far as the game's concerned, this is kind of the shot that you have towards the snake corner that is somewhat protected from the back center. You might be able to step off a little bit more, just given the fact that I imagine a lot of the gunfire is going to actually kind of avoid the back center and is going to be shooting cross at these 2 spots. So wherever your back center player decides to play, they actually might be able to float off the start a decent amount. So the reason I point that out is because like this is the gap that would be coming towards us that you would have to worry about if you're going into the snake corner. But otherwise, like past this Aztec, excuse me, you're pretty safe. So yeah, I don't know. I always say that and I end up being extremely wrong. So there's always like some random shot that comes in that I'm never expecting. I don't know. I think you're pretty safe. If you get low enough and you dive just shortly after the can, you're pretty safe getting into this corner, I imagine. So I'm not sure how common it'll be, but I'm kind of getting the feeling that we're going to see a lot of that. Number 2's going here. Number 1's going here. These are, I would argue, essentially similar survivabilities because the shot that comes in towards them is the same gap, just extended. I'm not getting the line exactly, but it's more off of the... Oh, hello. That's not the tool. It's more off of the box. But it's essentially the same gap that you have to cross, just just slightly different distances. So I'd imagine, and because of that, I think we're going to see a lot of people going into the corner off the break. But maybe not. Maybe we'll see. I just think that people will go to this brick, or excuse me, this can shooting cross field. The number 1s will dive out and then try to control the outside as much as they can, and then the number 2s will switch. They will look heads up, and then they'll try to work themselves into this spot and possibly into the snake or up to the wedge. This does appear to be, a spot that you can't really work in your snake players, which has been a very common theme in a lot of paintball. I guess you could. Yeah, you could if you get to the corner. If you get to the corner and your guy goes to the Aztec and he's the one that filters into the snake, that's a way to work him in. Otherwise, if you do take the route where this guy goes from the Aztec to the wedge and you take the corner, you're pretty much responsible for getting into the snake, and it's a lot harder at that point. So what you trade in, field pressure being up the middle, you trade in ease of access to the snake. Okay, that's it. We've talked about the snake long enough. Let's move on to the Doritos. All right. So the Dorito side. We already looked at the crossfield shots, as we said, super strong. Lots of pressure in this over-the-top shot towards the can. I'm not sure the corner shot is there. It looks a little too high. It's always hard to tell. You have this cake shot as well that we talked about that's extremely strong to stop the players from getting in. So I imagine this guy's going to stay cross field for a decent amount if he can. I don't know. There's a lot of coverage here. Like you've got a lot of gaps you can hold. You can shoot at the can. You can pressure the corner, but on the inside. Not super great. But you can also... There's a little bit of an outside shot here. It's high, but there is a little bit of an outside shot where you could surprise somebody. And then you have this can hold, as well as if you wrap even further, which you can't really do. But you've got a lot of visibility on the inside of this bunker. So it's pretty decent to do. If we look heads up, you obviously have the same sort of heads up shot towards your mirror as you do on the snake side. You have an inside blind shot towards the home. Man, this home, I'm not really sure what you're doing there. When we get to the center, we'll take a look. But so far, the home looks kind of rough. I'm not sure how much you're going to want to stay there. You also do have the ability to control the Dorito zone by just staying here and essentially avoiding your mirror as best you can. I actually really like this layout so far. I really like the traditional heads up battle that the 2s have to go through to get outside on the field. I like the ability for the 2s to choose a cross-field shot that's really valuable, or to hold the zones to stop the wide route, right? Because again, the other thing that you're trading, if you have your number 2s running to this spot and shooting up the gut, or rather cross-field, you lose a bit of stoppage on the outside of the field on both sides. So it's not like this is the thing you should do every single time. You have to make a decision on what you're more worried about. Because you can certainly argue, well, if I kill the number 2s, it doesn't really matter how wide the number 1s are because they have no support. And that might be true, but that's only if you can actually stop them from progressing up the field. So, okay, getting into this Aztec here. Who stops us? Who stops us? Our mirror stops us. And anybody... Is that it? I guess maybe the can? Maybe the can stops us from the outside? I mean, yeah, that looks to be... The can stops us as well. Just curious. I'm not sure how big that gap's going to be at the event. It might not actually exist, but what I was curious to know is who, aside from our mirror, who stops us from just getting into this Aztec like pretty shortly after the breakout. And it looks to be that like maybe a blind shot coming up from the back center if you're standing too tall, or again the can. But like outside of that, and outside of any sort of like 50 push immediately off the break, this Aztec seems like pretty safe. You would need to worry about somebody running up to this tower as well, but I don't know, man. I feel like the crossfield shots are going to be common enough, at least in the early part of the tournament, that I'm not sure how often people are going to take that hurts and the can off the break. I imagine very much so that this layout will be people go to the can and they go to this brick, they shoot either crossfield or heads up, and then after the early game, people will launch up to the middle like they usually do. That's kind of been the theme for the last little while in terms of layouts. Getting into the Aztec itself, and again, another battle. This is kind of rough. Another battle to get out of the spot into the Doritos. And at that point, you have the brick to deal with, and it's blinded to you. So that's, I mean, you can possibly get low enough, but that would be tough to go from here to here, because I feel like the brick can shoot you. Yeah, the brick can definitely shoot you going in. So, especially if they're taller than this character in the game. Getting out to the baby. So really this guy has a lot of control, right? We already established this guy has a ton of control. So getting out to this baby though, it is a true wire on the Dorito side. So that's nice. The baby is, are they pressured? I don't know. I'm not seeing a ton of people who sees this guy. You do have some snake shots to worry about, which we looked at earlier, but you're pretty well hidden, I would say. Like, this is one of those where you could take an inside, you could take an inside shot towards the brick if you wanted. Some shots over in this little valley towards the middle to stop any sort of like random pushes up the middle, potentially. You also have this inside shot as well that you'd have to be shooting to stop anybody from moving, but this is a thing, right? And you can shoot towards the snake, I think. It's hard to tell. But honestly, a decent little bunker for how small it is. Normally the baby, kind of anywhere on the field where the baby is, it's a tough spot to live out of. But I would say this is a pretty decent spot to get into. And then if we were to move up the field, we'd have to obviously cover our wire. But outside of that, we'd have to be able to avoid the Aztec on the Dorito side. So let's take a look just to confirm. What does that look like from this perspective? Yeah, you can avoid it. You might have to worry about that brick that we keep talking about. You might have to worry about that brick, but you might be able to hug the bunker tight enough and low enough to avoid it, but maybe not. You'd have to be a little careful. What does that look like from here? That looks like this. That's what that looks like. Okay, getting up into the Dorito 1. The Dorito 1. What do we see? A little bit of the Snake 3, I think is what that is. If not, actually, is that the Snake 4? 1, 2. No, that's the 3. Okay. A little bit of the Snake 3, if you float off the bunker, you might be able to avoid it, but I'm not sure if you see anything valuable on the Snake side. You do see the cake. So if the guy floats away from the cake a little bit, you can see that dude. So just be careful doing inside stuff, because that guy would surprise you. Like if you're trying to take an inside shot towards the home, that cake guy would kill you. So be very careful about doing that. I would probably just keep playing heads up, because you can get that same shot towards the back center from here. A lot more value, I would say. You also are pretty well protected from the Doritos as well doing this. So you have a lot of value in this Dorito 1 on these inside shots towards the can, or excuse me, towards the tower in the back center. Obviously, if the guy's in the wedge, have to concern yourself with them. If there's a guy in the brick on the Snake side, you'd have to worry about that as well. So there appears to be quite a bit of traps. That you can set in the middle of the field. But the nice thing is you can already tell there's going to be a lot of bounce shots. That's something that we actually didn't look at. But if somebody's just sitting here holding this angle right here, they're holding that, I'm sure there's a bounce shot right here you could shoot pretty easily. Let's take a look real quick. Just because, we should have done this earlier. Oh, you know what we need to do? We need to set up an object. Oh, that's actually not close enough. Let's make oh, hello. This is a little clunky, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, let's try this. Really? Yeah, it's supposed to make a noise. This is too hard. That's way too harsh of an angle. Was the bit with the back center? Really? Maybe I'm just not getting. I mean, it's a game, so I'm not getting it. You know, for one. But I would be very surprised if there's not a back center or can shot here. The can one might be a bit too harsh of an angle, but absolutely, depending on the conditions of the bunker and the paint, I would imagine you could get somebody to back off there. And the same would be true for this Dorito side as well, right? We don't need to look at this. But I would imagine there's a shot there or from the home as well. All right, so to continue on, again, something to worry about there. Again, the back center would stop you from pushing up the field, and then as you cross this Dorito 1 to 2, this is where you really need to start worrying about what's going on the snake side. So when you make this move, you need to commit. Far too often do I see Dorito players like crawling on their knees or like taking kind of a jaunt into their bunkers because they assume, well, I can't see you, so you can't see me. But you really do have to like dive into this spot very likely to avoid whatever's going on in the snake. And so because now you're dealing with a lot of angles here that could stop you. So be careful about that. Inside stuff is really the same angles that we saw on the wrap behind you. So let's not look at that. But now is where you really start to contend with the Aztec on the Dorito side, as well as that brick behind it. The wedge obviously is going to be a problem the whole time if you're not careful. And you do have some pretty decent shots to apply pressure across field. It's just you really aren't going to be able to do this. You might be able to get some sort of over the top shots towards either of these at the actual event. But again, you have to know what's going on the snake side. Like if, for example, you know that they're in the backfield on the snake, whatever in front of you is being taken care of, you can do this to apply some pressure, and you can start getting a little more creative to like look. So if you know they're not in the snake for sure, there's a lot of stuff you can do here. You can challenge the back center. You can challenge these guys. Obviously, prior to that, you can challenge the can as well. This is a really good shot, actually. That can shot is really good. So be looking for that. Just you have to be aware of what's going on in the snake. Hello, inside the Dorito. All right, going up to this next spot. This is where, depending on how the point is breaking down and how long it takes, you do need to worry about people looking on the inside of the field from this Aztec or that snake corner. So nothing is free yet. No free kills here, though. I would say that if you were in this spot wrapping and there was somebody stuck in the back center, let's say it's Tiger 2 on the Dorito side, there's one dude alive in the back center and two guys on the snake, this is an extremely strong, lots of pressure you're applying to those guys if you do this. Again, assuming that you actually know how to do zone control and you don't let the back center guy get out. So, okay. Getting here. Same sort of deal with the Aztec. This is just the same sort of bunkers you'd have to contend with to get up the field. Also, always be careful about the wire. That goes without saying. We can't move up the field without dealing with the wire. For all of these spots, yeah. So you can get up. You can get up from the snake or the Dorito 1 to Dorito 2 and 3 and 2 to 3, but you can't get up from the 3 to past the 50. You cannot pass go until you deal with the corner or the guy that's directly in front of you. So. Back center is pretty much dead from this position, and I would say that the Aztec is the first free kill you get here. Both the Aztec and the can. Oh my gosh, this brick is going to be the enemy. I would say the Aztec is probably the only one that's almost a free kill. Neither is a free kill. This cake is also one you would apply a lot of pressure to, but nothing is free yet. We also didn't see any free kills from the snake side as well, so. You kind of have to cross the 50 before you get that stuff. So once you do cross the 50, both these guys are free kills. I would say the can is as well. So crossing that 50 for both sides of the field is where you're going to collect a lot of value. Okay, that is it for the Dorito side. Let's finish then with the center, and then we'll do breakouts and yeah, answer any questions. All right, so from the center, what is the point of this back center? What can we do here? So, is there a shot here? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's too high. It's definitely too high. It might be decent-ish if somebody's running the baseline. Actually, I would say if somebody's running the baseline, trying to get into that corner, you could probably shoot them doing this. The game is not going to give us that indication, I would imagine. But let's take a look. Let me see if I can kind of line up where I think it is. Oh, I might have not put it in the right spot. I don't think I did. There needs to be more observer tools in this game. Yeah, I mean, I didn't put it in the right spot. Let me just double check. Oh, I mean, it's actually pretty close. It's pretty close. So let me shoot a bunch of paint and see where it's landing, and we'll go from there. You'd have to probably back up. So we're trying to shoot in this valley right here. Let's take a look. I don't know how long it'll persist, but it doesn't look like it does at all. I don't know. I think they're, you know, you're probably low enough to not have to worry about it. If you were running and gunning, the back center would shoot you. So if you were running and gunning using the baseline to get into the corner, the back center would kill you probably doing this. So be aware of that. Not a ton of value so far. This corner we established is a shot that you could make if they're, again, running and gunning or going high. I mean, honestly, yeah, if they're going to run and gun to the corner, you want to just kind of take the step out here anyway. So more value there. Obviously, you can shoot at your mirror. There is a little bit of maybe not stopping power. Excuse me, maybe not stopping power, but like you do have a little bit of pressure you could apply to the can. The issue is just that the can can avoid it entirely. Like if the can is fighting with its mirror, it can get low enough to just avoid you. There might be a bounce shot that's happening. I don't even know if you can really see that, but like you notice how like what I'm looking at right now is this surface of that Aztec. So if you start shooting that, this guy is going to get bounce shots heading towards him. Right, so if you're battling your mirror and all of a sudden you see back center shots coming in towards this spot, that is something you would need to worry about. But you're not gonna you don't really get to those until you step out here. That's the thing. That's really where those shots are coming from, and at that point, you may as well be in the Hertz bunker. So the Hertz bunker is gonna have some of those bounce shots. It looks like where you could shoot up into that can, maybe. Again, I'm not gonna be able to get the game to simulate what that bounce would look like very well, but it's worth it. It's worth like checking out at practice to see. So I don't see a ton of value here on the snake side. You of course have like that inside shot on the cake. It's just you're not stopping them from getting to the cake, and you're not stopping them from getting past the cake. You're stopping them from going to the snake 2, or excuse me, the snake 3 past the 50. So if for whatever reason you're still in this spot, there's a shot for you, but I can't see a lot of value here. This seems to be, at least so far, if you were to play this on the snake side for whatever reason, you're really using this to like launch up the middle after the breakout. Dorito side, again, mirror shot. You may have a shot towards the number 2. Like, I just would be so surprised. There's no world in which you shoot somebody off the break from here, because they're already, you can see where the start box is. It's like right here. There's no way you're painful. That has to be like first ball. First ball is how you kill somebody doing that. So I just don't see that happening. In pro play, you would see that, but I don't know. I can't imagine even in a lot of semi-pro, you're going to see people getting a lot of kills like off the break right here, but never say never. You know, this shot is a lot more viable. It's just that if you're shooting this and you start killing them, they're going to just run into it already. And you can get that same sort of output from your opponent by taking this shot. Right? So. All right. Still look at the back center. Same sort of deal where we like have these vague shots over the top where we could do something. There's a little bit more value here on the Dorito side where you can shoot the Dorito 1 on the outside of the Dorito 1 and stop it a little bit. I don't know how much you can see or how much this affects the baby. Those look to be a little too high. Again, if you're really tall, then there's a lot of value here, or there's more value, I should say, in your ability to apply pressure there. I don't know, man. This doesn't look very good. There's got to be something about this back center that I'm not understanding, because so far it's not good. I don't know, guys. Because like a lot of what I'm seeing here is like, you know, you take a step out. So like, let's say you use this pin to block. You use the pin. You know, you step out immediately off the brake. Use the pin to block the can or the brick, excuse me. And now you've got a really decent shot towards the snake side, right? Same sort of deal. Step out here. Use the pin. You're lining up. I mean, you're at that point, you're pretty much in the bunker, I guess. So maybe less so of a blind step out towards the Doritos as the other. Yeah, because by the time you get here, you're pretty much in line with this guy. Huh. I don't know. I truly don't know. I kind of feel like the only reason you would stay here is just to push up to the Hertz or the turret off the break. Like, unless I'm missing something, I just feel like that's the only reason. So we already looked at these shots. I imagine there's a bounce from this Aztec into the can. You obviously have a bunch of zone control here. You have a lot of pressure you can apply to this this cake. You do need to worry about the Dorito side once you hear Dorito 2. If you hear a Dorito 2 call, you need to get out of here, it looks like. Obviously, if they're in the wedge, even worse, like, you need to get out. But at least off the break, if you take this early, you have a really decent hold on towards the snake side. A decent-ish... You have some kind of control over the Dorito side. Mostly in that Aztec. Nothing else. I would not go here if they're past Dorito 2. Yeah, and you have shots towards that brick as well, so... I'd probably just stay heads up if I were you. And then when it comes to the tower... Looking Dorito way, the tower has a lot of control from the Dorito 1 to 2. If you stand up a little bit from the Dorito 2 to 3, mostly on the inside though, you do have some control on the outside. They can't ignore you, right? Like you are gonna possibly shoot them, but you really have a lot of control over that snake or that Dorito 1 to 2 move. You have a lot of control. If you get Tiger 1, if you kill the wide guy on the Dorito side and you get here, you have a ton of control on the guy in that brick. He's living in a nightmare if you get here. They would have to send somebody up the middle to get you out. Or I guess push really far up to the snake side as well. The snake guy would get you out. But that's the thing. If you played here, dude, if you played on this side, the Dorito side of this bunker, you could do a lot of damage here. But just know that, yeah, you getting out of that spot is really tricky. So as far as snake side stuff, you have a lot of control on that mini wedge. You actually do very likely stop the progression when they're in that mini wedge from this position. It's really tough because I'm not sure what exactly it's going to look like at the tournament. But like, if you were to try to just isolate the outside shot, you could probably get nicked if you're not careful by the guy on the inside. And so therefore, if you're trying to shoot both, if you're trying to have visibility of both shots, it just becomes really tricky, right? Having both angles visible at all times is tough, but it is what you have to do sometimes. You have quite a bit of control on the inside of that Snake 3, but obviously anything past that, if they're starting to go around, like wrapping around, you can't do much. You have, I think, really solid control on somebody trying to go from that snake corner into the snake. From what it looks like, you have pretty decent control. There might be a bit of a gap here. It kind of depends on what it looks like at the event, if that's a gap you can shoot through. And possibly, like, I'm never tall enough to look over pins like this, so I'm not sure if you'd be able to as well, but like, there might be a shot towards the can that stops them from progressing. So there might be pretty decent control on, you know, a lot of snake zones if you get here and you want to look inside, but it kind of just depends. This seems to be that it has a little bit more options than maybe this bunker. They're about the same, honestly. They're about the same. So exerting a similar amount of control. Getting up to this wedge. Obviously, this is where you start to set traps. Getting this position, laying down, you know, let me actually do it. Laying down here, setting up traps, really solid. If they're stuck in the baby, you can play here a little bit more aggressively and look for like a loader or a head and definitely get a free kill that way. If you get Tiger 1 and they're stuck in the Aztec, this is really strong zone control, or really just strong control in general. This allows your teammates to push up the field quickly if you hold this. If we wrap even further, you have some really great shots over towards the back center. More so even for like this wedge is strong. I imagine that's true. I don't remember, but I imagine that's true for this wedge as well, right? Back center shots. Yeah. Same sort of deal, right? These wedges are really, really strong. Getting into the 50s, same sort of deal. Sorry. Same sort of deal. Lots of zone control, lots of traps you could set here. This is one where you could wait to shoot until you see somebody and then pull the trigger. So really strong traps to set. You do have possibly the ability to shoot at the cake. I imagine you do at the actual event. You just can't really do it in the video game. But towards that cake. And then you do have an insane zone that you can control from the back center to the can, or the can outside to the Dorito, excuse me, to the snake. Have zone control here and the Aztec out. There's so much you can do here. You have a trap you can set for the Doritos right here. The biggest thing you got to be worried about playing in the middle is always getting run down or having a bounce shot hit you right here. So where is this bounce shot? Let's take a look. Does the baby? No, I don't think the baby has that shot. Let's take a look. I'm so curious now. Where is this bounce shot? Okay, we heard it once. So, I mean, you could probably take that shot at the actual event. You could probably take that shot on your knees right here. Depends on how big the gap is, but that seems to be a pretty okay-ish bounce. You know, you have to try and feather it in just slightly because I'm hitting too much of the front face of that thing. But that's the biggest thing you got to be worried about if you're playing in the middle and you're just like holding a trap like this. If you're just holding this gap, just be careful about the bounce. Otherwise, insane control here. Insane control on either side of the field. Okay. Obviously, once we get to the 50, like everything starts to break down. I would not probably play this spot. I always say that and I end up being wrong like one event or several, I guess, every so often. I just don't, these spots are so far up, and when you're not really on the outside of the field, it becomes very dangerous to stay here for too long. So these, in my view, are always like stopgaps. Like, come to this spot, make a play, get out of that spot. Don't make this play or come here and then plan to just stay there without an idea or a game plan. Like, come here with a specific purpose to either get a kill or move past. So, because otherwise, like, you get here, you look for kills, and then I would imagine you're just crawling up to get to this 50, killing everybody else, you know, depending on where the enemies are. So, and I would imagine the same thing is true for this other side. So, oh, oops. We already looked at that spot. We kind of looked at this one as well already. So yeah, same sort of deal, right? Okay. Let's talk about breakouts. And then we're just about done. Oh, oops, right here. Okay. So, breakouts. So the thing is, these channels, these zones, whatever you want to call them, I feel like determine a lot about what you want to do. So as we saw, these crossfield shots exist on both sides of the field towards essentially your kitty corner mirror. These exist. They're pretty good. Obviously, the pin is blocking a little bit of that shot, but like, practice this shot a lot if you're a number 2. This is a very, very important shot. You want to at least be able to have this in your back pocket. And you also, something I need to be emphasizing a lot more is you need to play games where you dive into the spot, whether you're getting the pressure or not. Obviously, depending on like the competition you have at your local field. You also want to play points where you're diving into this spot instead of taking the shot even if you're not getting pressured, because you need to learn how to win with not that crossfield shot taking place. So this shot is strong for a lot of reasons. We've already established that it just obviously applies pressure to the person trying to run into either of these positions, but it also stops anybody who takes a step out and shoots the up the center shot, like up the gut shot from either of these two positions. So in that way, it kind of kills two birds with one stone, which is the reason why I feel like it's just such a good shot that it's probably going to be done most of the time. I think both teams are probably just going to do it by default. However, just remember that what you're trading for these cross shots is that you are trading outside zone control. So if you constantly shoot these inside shots, and let's say you're not actually killing anybody, then the guy that was running wide is just getting there every time. Wherever they want to go, they're getting there. So it's really important to not only like hit the shot if you're going to take it, you really need to be applying a lot of pressure to somebody enough that they would have to dive into it because they're worried about getting killed. Or you need to not do that and then shoot for the wide runners as you come out. And you can do this, you know, you can as well. We didn't really look at it. Look at all the pods. We didn't really look at it, but you know, we looked at a lot of the crossfield shots as you get here, but just as much, you could easily do this where you're shooting, you know, you're shooting here, or you're coming here, right? Like this is a pretty standard, like run out as fast as you can, shoot at your mirror, and then, or just shoot for the outside, right? There's obviously ways in which you can do this, but this layout doesn't seem to have as many like super clear cut. Back center has this shot off the break sort of angles, right? So you have to run to get to your spot if you want to shoot somebody going on the outside, or if you're able to cheat a little bit. I don't mean like wipe, but if you're able to like play this dead zone, you know, in the open, then you can get an even better shot as somebody tries to run out. So these are obviously at risk, very exposed from the reasons we already talked about. Okay. Back center, you guys, I guess for the sake of this video, I'm going to leave you with a homework assignment to figure out what the heck this back center is doing, because I have no idea. It seems to be not good on its face. There's very little value it has off the break in terms of shots, but there's got to be something here. There's got to be some kind of off the break shot that they can at least do to have some kind of value. But really where I think the back center is going to shine is if you can find any kind of shot to apply pressure. What I actually think is going to happen is these back centers are just going to start shooting at each other kind of regardless. Because I think what people are really going to try to do is they're mostly trying to get into either of these two positions and then push up the field. I think that's what they're mostly trying to do. Because, as we established, these wedges are extremely strong. Now, that's always the case. Center 40-yard line wedges on the inside of either side of the field are always extremely strong. But I feel like a lot of stagnation in a point is going to be broken down by these positions. Or maybe I should say that your ability to stop the flow of a game is going to come as a result of you getting into these spots, right? You're going to have so much control over either side of the field that getting into these positions is going to be important to slow the game down, or just get a kill outright and explode the point afterwards, right? And so if you want to draw out a point, or I don't know, I just kind of feel like these spots are really good. That's all I'm trying to say. These spots are really good. Do you think double up the home right away and release one is a viable option? Maybe. The reason why my inclination is no, but that's just because there's just not good shots. So I feel like when you send two in the middle, like let's say for example, this was your breakout. You know, you do the 2 and the 3, we'll call it. And then the 1 goes here, the 2 goes here, and the 1 goes somewhere snake side. Well, the issue is that if they do the thing that we talked about before, where they shoot cross field, and let's imagine that everybody lives off the break. Okay, we don't even have to theorize where everybody else is on the other side of the field. Man, look at how stuck you are. Like the thing you're trying to do when you push up the middle of the field is completely stopped by the battle that's already taking place. Right? Now, certainly, if you are stronger in this crossfield shot than your opponents, which is obviously, you know, if you shoot your opponents, you can do more, right? Duh. But if you are stronger than your opponents and they have to take this dive just to live, and you want to delay for just a second, then yeah, there's a ton of value here, because then you can launch just shortly after the break and take that spot very easily. But that's a big contingent, right? Your opponents have to suck. And if that's the case, then, you're probably going to win without having to make that kind of play. Okay. So I would just encourage anybody who's watching this, go home or go to your local field and figure out what the back center is doing. Like, what's the point of the back center? It also could be the back center's only value is to take bounce shots into the 50s. It's very possible that that's the only other thing it's offering. Now, I have a suspicion that whatever shots you could take from the back center to hit something, you could probably just as easily take from one of these spots as well. But find out where the bounce shot is, and so that way if somebody's playing the inside of the 50, that you have an option, you have an answer to that. But there's probably, from either of these positions, probably decent bounce shots. These two bunkers should probably be treated as stopgaps into the middle, because whatever you're trying to do from this tower or this can just as easily be done, and as safer, I would argue, to an extent, in the wedges. So, you certainly can stop here. You don't have to force it every single time, or you don't have to make it so methodical that as soon as you get into the tower, you immediately go into the wedge, because people will look for that move. But just try to probably move into the wedge, I would say. I think the only reason why you wouldn't immediately is because you already know that somebody is in the middle. Like, you hear red alert as you come up to this tower or the can. You hear red alert. You know which side of the field they're on. Maybe it makes more sense to just take a second before you push, only because what you don't want is you don't want to go here, and this dude was looking that whole time. He was looking that way. So that's a way to protect yourself a little bit. We did talk about the number twos. Instead you don't have to necessarily do this. Instead, I would imagine that a lot of games, what I would think is probably going to happen is we're going to have the 3 play the Dorito side from the home. 3 plays the Dorito side. You have the 2 here. You have the 1 that goes somewhere here, right? Then you have the 2 that plays here and the 1 that goes somewhere here. And then what's going to happen is after the first 15 seconds of the game, you're going to see somebody make this move. And then you're going to see a Dorito side push and a snake side push. And the way the snake side push is going to develop is they're going to go from here to here. Oh, excuse me. The snake is going to go either from here to here, or they're already going to be the Aztec. They're going to get into the snake somehow from the corner. And then this guy's going to go from here and he's going to go up to here, or the opposite is going to take place, where there's so many options, right? The 2, let's call this, doesn't really matter. We can call this the 2 and the 1. The 1 gets to the corner and lives. This guy gets up into the snake. Ha-di-da, right? We're doing great. You could then see somebody stay in this position and provide support. That's great play. You could see them filter up to here so that you have something like that. Or the opposite is you have somebody who is in the 1, the 2 here, they go here, here, and then you filter in. Either way, doesn't really matter. Whatever's safest, right? Tons of ways, obviously. Those are the ways you get into the snake. We all know this, but I just feel like the corner is going to be fairly common because it's a deeper shot and it's the same gap. If you're going to cross this gap, maybe get further away from their guns. Baseline route's pretty safe, I would imagine, but definitely, still be wary of just taking it for free every time. But part of the reason why I feel that way is because the shot that's closest to you, like the only 3 shots that can hit you is a run and gun to the can, somebody who steps out into the open. This is the closest shot that is like the most solid, you would argue, like off the break, stop, shoots, and they're closest to you in proximity. The only other shot is this guy who's shooting cross field towards you as he's running and gunning. Is that even possible? No, it's not, actually. Well, I guess off the break he would shoot you, possibly. It's like he's not going to hit you here. So yeah, like there's really just 2 options, I feel like, unless I'm just missing something, which I very well could be. But try to go wide often and early and see who is it that's going to stop you from doing that. I could have a huge blind spot right now. Okay, and then what else did we say? I imagine that we'll see a lot of... be very careful about this brick stopping you from progressing past the snake 1 and beyond the snake 2 to 3. Or excuse me, 3 to really past the 50. So this brick can see both of those moves. If you want, like, let's imagine this is the number 1 here, your 2 is back here. They can help you get in to an extent by coming up to this position as we established and shooting at him from here. There is ways for them to put that guy in. You're not going to be putting him in. If you're trying to get past the 50-yard line, that shot isn't going to do anything. But if you're trying to get from this snake 1 up into this snake 2, that shot will stop. We'll push him in a little bit. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking to see my son's going to wake up. All right. As far as the Doritos are concerned, really, I mean, for both sides of the field, a lot of free shots come once you cross this 50-yard line. A lot of free kills, as to be expected if you're on the Dorito side. These positions become extremely free in terms of kills, and the opposite is true. Maybe the Dorito one is the exception to that, but these spots also become pretty free kills. So try to get to past the 50-yard line, right? But if you really want to get into the game, like this Snake 3 is extremely strong. And honestly, past the Snake 1, you're pretty much into the game. Like this Dorito 2 is really strong in wrapping on towards the back center, towards these bunkers here, as well as crossfield. Like there's a lot of really good shots, even from the Dorito 2, whereas, and that's not as far up the field as the Snake 3. So I don't know. It seems like a pretty basic field. And also use this baby Dorito. Like this baby Dorito is really solid in protecting stuff going on up the middle. This baby Dorito is great, and it's pretty well protected. There's a lot of routes that you could take up the field from it. So don't be afraid to try out that position and see what you can do from there. But it seems pretty straightforward. I don't know, guys. It's hard to say like this is the breakouts because I don't know what this home's going to be like, but I imagine that a lot of very standard breakouts are going to just be like this. 3's looking snake way, or Dorito way, and then you'll have the 2 and the 1. It's going to be backline, or the variation is going to be here. Obviously, you can take snake off break. That's always the case. If you can take snake off break, you can take Dorito 1 off break, but I feel like just so many plays are going to be broken down in this way. I know it's super boring. Do I think anybody's going to go up the middle off the break? Yeah, you know what? I actually do, now that I think about it. What am I doing? Oh, that's, whoa, hello. I actually do. I could see people off the break shooting up the gut and shooting here and then pushing up that way. I could actually see that, where that's how people work their way in. It doesn't work as much in pro play, which obviously no one in here is a pro, so that's fine. But I could see a situation where off the break, like you immediately take this inside shot from here and then you just make your way and dive. I could see that. So if that's the case, then yeah, it's really just about a matter of being very confident in your shot and taking it, and being accurate, obviously, but not delaying. Like, certainly you're going to be telegraphing what you're doing, but that's also an option. So, man, you really just have to decide. I know this breakout section is probably a lot more like ambiguous and not as clear as other layouts, but there's so many options for what you want to do. And honestly, this is this field is very much so like a let the point develop and see where to go from there. So there's not a clear advantage on one side of the field or the other, I would say. I do think that the wedge on the Dorito side is maybe a little bit stronger than the wedge on the snake side, just because of the visibility you have on both sides of the field. But they're honestly equally as strong. So yeah, anyway, I wish I had like a more clear cut, like this is what you should do. Cause you could do that route that we just highlighted. You could put your guy here, you could put him here, like one or the other, and do essentially the exact same breakout where you just do this. Like, it's pretty standard. So unfortunately it leads to not very many creative solutions here, but I think once you guys figure out what the back center is doing, like what's the point of the back center, then it'll give you a better idea as to what you can do. From what I can see, it looks like the back center has a slightly better shot towards the Dorito side. They're both bad, but it looks to be like maybe a little better. So try that. And also don't be afraid that, like, even though we don't have shots off the break from the home, don't be afraid to just like literally pressure up this channel, like just dominate up the middle, excuse me, and see what sort of options that gives you. That quite literally might be the only thing the back center is good for, is you have these twos that are running out wide, shooting cross, and then you decide which of these two players we want to target, and that's where the home steps off the box and shoots and doubles up that shot. So he either steps out on the snake side shooting the snake runner, the number 2, excuse me, on the snake, or on the Doritos, and then from there, like, let's imagine, you know, you essentially I want to eliminate this player, then your follow-up move after that would be to push up the middle like this, and vice versa for the other side of the field. So yeah, a little bit more unorthodox, I would say, on a breakout, you know, from a breakout perspective, but those are some options. So, okay. If you guys made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, well, I'll pause for a second for the live stream. If anybody does have any questions or wants me to look at anything, let me know. I'll hang out here for just a second. But otherwise, please hit the like button on the YouTube video. It helps a lot. And let me know again in the comments below who you're playing for and what division, because I'd be curious to see what that distribution looks like. And if you want to say hi, I will be at the World Cup this year. The best times to say hi are when obviously pro matches are not happening, and usually during lunch break. So that's like the best time to say hi. I don't know how many people we still have here anymore. I don't look at viewer counts, so. I think we're good. Okay. Well, again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you.